Hey everybody, welcome to the video. Let's go to my core plays for the 2-game Monday Night Football slate for tonight on Draftkings. All I did in this video was I took a handful of my favorite plays on the entire slate, put it on a quick presentation for you guys, which should only take around 10 to 15 minutes. So just something short, sweet, to the point, similar to what I did on my Sunday morning video, going over my core plays for week 1 of the NFL season for the main slate. So pretty similar format here, so hopefully you guys do enjoy. But before we continue, as always, if you guys could just leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, you might as well hit that subscribe button. And we're all season long trying to help you guys become better NFL DFS players and cover other sports as well. So if you're going to keep coming back to the channel each and every single day or each and every single week, you might as well hit that subscribe button and turn the notification bell so you don't miss out whenever I post new videos. And also, quick shout out to each and every single one of you guys. We did reach over 6,000 subscribers on Sunday, which is absolutely incredible. So I do appreciate each and every single one of you guys, and I just wanted to give everyone a quick shout out. And if you want to follow me on social media, I'm at ChrisPennell16 on Twitter, CPen16 over on IG. And if you miss more content over on Patreon, always much appreciated. We got 300 plus people. You can hop into the Discord chat or just get access to all the extra content that I put out throughout the entire week, which is mainly just my spreadsheet. So if you want to glance at what my spreadsheets look like, they are pretty detailed and they are in the background when I'm recording my videos on my first look video and my final thoughts video that I posted last week if you want to glance at what they look like. So if you're interested, links down below. If not, hey, that's fine. Let's just dive into my core plays for the Monday Night Football slate. So first guy up, it's going to be JUJU Smith-Schuster here at 7,200. A bit pricey, yes, but this is a fantastic matchup here for JUJU, and I absolutely love this spot versus the Giants. And for the most part, the Steelers are going to be the top offense to target. I'd imagine most of your lineup is going to involve a good majority of Steelers players, as they have the highest team total in the slate at nearly 26 points. They are 6-point favorites here, but I mean, I think all these guys are going to be fantastic plays. Now, if you're looking at the numbers last season for JUJU, they're going to look pretty awful. Only 5.5 targets per game, 46 receiving yards per game, and a 17% target share. But don't forget, Ben Roethlisberger went down very, very early on in the season, and JUJU is playing with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph under center, which is never good for your wide receiver because those guys are very below average quarterbacks. So getting Big Ben back is going to be a huge boost to this offense. We know Big Ben, obviously, he can put up points in a hurry, and usually the wide receiver 1 position for Big Ben is usually pretty profitable for fantasy owners. So definitely like JUJU Smith here, and I haven't even gotten to the matchup yet. The matchup is absolutely pristine versus the Giants. They were awful versus the pass last season. They were 31st DVA versus the pass, over 40 DraftKings points per game to wide receivers, nearly 200 receiving yards per game to wide receivers, and nearly 1.5 touchdowns per game as well. So absolutely love JUJU. Again, his numbers last season were very pedestrian, but there's a lot of factors that went into that. He was also banged up last year as well. But last time he was with Big Ben, he pretty much set the world on fire. He's one of the tops in the league in terms of receiving yards, and he was just absolutely fantastic for fantasy purposes. And now I know he's playing alongside Antonio Brown, which is going to keep some of the defensive pressure off of him, so he's not going to be as easy runnings as it was back when AB was on the other side of him. But look, he's going up against a really poor defense here, and I think JUJU is a fantastic play at 7,200. And I do expect the Steelers to put up quite a bit of points here, and Vegas does as well, and I think JUJU will be a pretty big part of that. I think there's a decent chance he could, or not even just a very solid chance he gets over 100 yards receiving and probably finds the end zone. So definitely like JUJU, and he's my core play number 1, and we'll get into core play number 2. Who's the freight train himself, Derrick Henry at 7,500. Now, the matchup versus the Denver Broncos doesn't look great on paper, but things have changed this last season, and they are dealing with some injuries, and they did lose Von Miller for the entire season, which obviously sucks for Broncos fans, one of the more prolific pass rushers in the entire league. And one thing I noticed about the Titans, they came in early on in the week as 1-point underdogs on the road here in Denver. Now they are 3-point favorites, which anytime the Titans are favored, that's a very positive game script for Derrick Henry because he's not typically someone that's involved in the passing game. And if they fall behind, it can kind of get a little bit tough for Derrick Henry because he's not really someone that's going to be too involved in the passing game. But if they have the lead, they're just going to hand the rock a bunch of times to just kill the clock and make it really boring for the entire viewers. But it won't be boring if you have him in DFS because he should get the ball a ton here, and it would not surprise me if he saw about 30 rushing attempts here. Like we saw it last season quite a few times. I don't really like to use game logs just to make a point here, but look, looking at his game log last season, from week 17 to week 19, this was in the playoffs, or I guess the one game was not in the playoffs, it was the last game before the playoffs, but 32 week 17, 32 rushing attempts, 211 rushing yards. Then week 18 in New England, 34 rushing attempts, 182 rushing yards. Then the next week versus Baltimore, 30 rushing attempts, 195 rushing yards. The guy can handle a heavy workload. I mean, just look at him. He's an absolute monster. He can handle the heavy workload. He's going to wear out the defense. And if they're playing with the lead here, it should be the Derrick Henry show for the most part. And there was reports of him being a little bit more involved in the passing game. We'll see if that's actually true. But even then, he got the job done. He got the job done just on the ground last season. So I obviously have a lot of interest here in Derrick Henry. Just looking at his overall numbers last season, he was over 5 yards per carry, over 1 rushing touchdown per game, over 20 rushing attempts per game, and over 100 rushing yards per game as well. So I think he's a very safe play here. There's always a good chance of Derrick Henry finding the end zone. Now, these small 2-game slates, you want to lock in volume, especially in cash games. So I think guys like Derrick Henry, James Conner, and Saquon Barkley are definitely some of the top targets on this slate because we want the safe commodities here, especially in cash games or if you're even playing tournaments. But either way, you want the safe plays in Derrick Henry. We know he's going to get the ball a ton. So love him in all formats, and I think he's a fantastic play. Then we'll get on to core play number 3. And James Conner, he's only 6,400. I think he's a fantastic play here. And he's actually a pretty easy plug-in for the most part. I mean, it's a really good price point. Especially for a guy who's going to be the bell cow running back for the Steelers. At least that's what Mike Tomlin said. But we know he typically likes to use one running back, and we saw back in 2018 how good James Conner was in that primary role when Le'Veon Bell was sitting out the season due to contract negotiations, or not negotiations. He just wanted paid, so he sat out. But James Conner absolutely balled out. Now, last season, I'm pretty much giving all the Steelers a pass here because Duck Hodges was under center, Mason Rudolph was under center, then James Conner got beat up in quite a few games as well. But with Big Ben back under center, this offense should be clicking, and I definitely like James Conner here. I mentioned that the Giants were awful versus the pass last year, but they were also pretty bad on the ground as well. I'm just looking at their numbers. They were 24th DVA versus the run, allowed over 25 DraftKings points per game, nearly 100 rushing yards per game, and nearly 1 rushing touchdown per game as well. He's also a capable pass catcher too, and he's got a positive game script working for him as well, as them being 6-point favorites here on the road versus the New York Giants. So I love James Conner in all formats. The price is great, and he's a talented running back, and he's going to be on a pretty good offense here. So I think he makes a ton of sense, and he's going to be one of the higher-owned plays on the entire slate. And my fourth core play here is Saquon Barkley at 8,000. Now, I'm a little bit iffy on this because the matchup versus the Steelers is absolutely horrendous, but Saquon's one of those guys where you can kind of just call him matchup proof for the most part. But I do have concerns with the Giants offense being able to get things going here. But I think Saquon should be able to get his. And if the Giants are going to stay competitive, they're going to have to get Saquon Barkley the ball in any way they can. And the thing is, he's game script proof. They are 6-point underdogs here. But he's also a capable pass catcher. If you're looking at his receiving numbers last season, he was at nearly 5.5 targets per game, only 33 receiving yards, but 14% target share and a 23% weighted opportunity share. And we're also talking nearly 17 rushing attempts per game. So pretty much around 20-25 touches per game we can expect from Saquon Barkley. And those are very high-level touches, especially from a guy like Saquon Barkley. Now, I know the Giants' offense isn't absolutely great, and this matchup is very stiff. We're just looking at the matchup here on the ground for the Giants. The Steelers were first DVA versus the run last season, 20 DK points per game. Now, nearly 100 rushing yards per game, but only 0.31 rushing touchdowns per game. But still, it's Saquon Barkley, and on a very small slate, I would like to lock in the high-volume players like Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, and James Conner. If you can build a lineup with all three of those guys, I think that's a very, very safe way to go, especially in cash games, just locking up those 20 touches from all three of those guys. But the only problem with that is it's going to be pretty hard to fit in JUJU Smith-Schuster. Now, I was playing around with some builds. You can play all three of those guys and JUJU, but you're going to have to go cheap at quarterback. You cannot play Big Ben, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. So I think you should at least play 2 of the 3 between Barkley, James Conner, and Derrick Henry. And if I had to pick 2, I'd probably side with Henry and Conner due to the price tags and the better matchups. But I still like Saquon in all formats here just because of the talent, and we know he's going to get high volume. That's kind of all you can ask for from guys on small slates. Going to get the volume and the talent's there as well. So we can certainly overcome the matchup. And again, if the Giants want to stay relevant here, they're going to have to get Saquon the ball. And then my final core play here is going to be a cheaper option in DeOntay Johnson at only 4,400. I have some high hopes for him heading into the season. I think he could certainly start here in an awesome matchup versus the New York Giants. I already mentioned it when I talked about JUJU Smith-Schuster of how bad the Giants are versus wide receivers. And I think JUJU and DeOntay Johnson can both have very solid games here. And Johnson, in my projections, does great as one of the best value plays on this entire slate at only 4,400. And now I know there was some concerns about him earlier in the week because he was a little bit limited in practice, but on Friday he practiced fully with the foot issue, and he should be fully good to go here. And look, last season, if we're looking at his numbers, you get a pass last year just because of who was under center at quarterback. But just to read the numbers, he was at 5.5 targets per game, only an 18% target share, which actually isn't terrible, but it's not great either. But again, 4,400 price tag. And again, different quarterback scenario. I would have to imagine that's probably going to be around 20% this season, which, look, I would take a 20% target share versus the New York Giants with Big Ben as my quarterback all day. Love the spot here for DeOntay Johnson. He offers you some salary relief as well at only 4,400. So I think it's going to be pretty much it for the video, guys. I know it wasn't too in-depth, but I wanted to keep these videos kind of short, sweet, and to the point. And then I'll keep my more in-depth breakdowns on the first thoughts video and the final look video as well, just with a spreadsheet in the background too. So I hope this video was helpful. If it was, make sure you guys leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, like I said, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I really do appreciate it. And if you don't follow me on social media, ChrisPennell16 on Twitter, CPen16 over on IG. And like I said, if you want some more content over on Patreon, links down below. I hope you guys had a fantastic football Sunday. It was awesome having football back. It's been a long time coming, and I didn't actually know. I wasn't actually sure if we were actually going to get to this point earlier on in the spring. So I'm glad we did, and I really did enjoy it. I want to thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the